equal to 1 plus the rate of return on the capital stock. I eat all my wealth and all its return. So I leave nothing for the young. All that the young have is because they earn it, because they end up consuming everything. Okay? So this suggests, look, strange enough, bequest help. This guy, we cannot ignore the fact that old people transfer wealth, accumulated wealth to the young. It seems to be essential for sustaining growth. All right? And then there is obviously the second observation, we'll look at it in the second part of the lecture, which is, wait a second. Maybe the young have a way, or maybe when we are young, right? We have a way of acquiring right away some accumulable factor. Because again, in this model, it's not the one is called capital, the other is called labor that matters, right? As we pointed out, what matters is there are factors that are reproducible and accumulable, and they drive growth, and factors that are not reproducible and accumulable, and they don't drive growth. They become negligible. So maybe there's not just capital, physical capital, there is also human capital, education, knowledge, that's reproducible, that's accumulable, that also is a part of what drives growth, and maybe there are arrangements through which the newborn get to acquire some of that. And because they get to acquire some of that, then they're able to make the economy grow forever. So that opens up, the model with its limitations says, well, look, here's one way out that makes sense, right? Think about that. So you gotta start thinking about the new factor and how this gets transferred. Because the intuition that there has got to be a way in which the old people that own everything that is reproducible transfer some of that to the young has to play a key role in the growth process. So I have to think of a way in which the existing stock of reproducible inputs are transferred, at least partially, from the old to the young. And then the young do more accumulation. Okay? So that's what you learn. Just work it out. You should do it yourself. Too soon you say it. Do it, just write, it's this. I already did it for you, but do it yourself, right? Write this, put this equals 0, and ask yourself, is that possible that this keeps growing when it's bounded above by this? Right? And you see that no, it cannot. And eventually, it gets stuck because of that. Okay? Let's overlap the generation model in a hurry, but it's overlapping generation model. So, in particular, the overlapping generation model, obviously with a standard solo structure in the production function, obviously gives you a steady state and everything, and this one, so this, without the fancy production function, or with the fancy production function, it doesn't matter, right, gives you a steady state. And it's a simple model of steady state accumulation, nothing special. You don't learn much from that. Go ahead.
Are two. One is trivial and 0, 1, no?
What's it?
I mean, the steady state are two.
The
trivial one and the other one.
With accumulation, no. The zero steady state is not attractive. Attracting in the dynamics.
Okay.
Right, yeah. In the autarky, yes. The OLG has always the autarky. These people do not trade, don't accumulate. But the point is that this structure allows you to bypass. So you can take the standard, the basic OLG with just endowment with yang, right? And say, okay, this is a model of autarky, right? And then you can go and use it, and both ways are useful. One way, institution, money, social security, I'll do it in a moment, public debt, banks, and the other, capital accumulation. Okay, pure private. In fact, let me finish, there are 10 minutes. Obviously, so we have gone this way, capital, right? But before the raise, you remember there was the social security. Social security is social arrangement. And the thing important there is to understand that it is, in order to understand and work with that, you better put politics into it. politics in a serious sense, in the sense that there are issues of intergenerational redistribution. As we have noticed, it pretty much depends on how you write the model. The pension you pay in every period is bounded above by labor income. Okay? And in fact, it's bounded above by labor income only because in the model, Jesus Christ, you've written it as bound by labor income. Per se, it's bounded by income. In fact, in a system like the Italian one, part of it is paid by labor income and part is paid by general taxation, which means it's paid by everybody's income. Okay? And obviously, what's sustainable, what's not sustainable, what's fair, what's not fair, it's all a matter of what kind of welfare function you use. So all the completely, see, using an OLG model makes it clear why accountants, people that talk about the pay-as-you-go system being sustainable, right? That all these debates, it's sound, it's not broke, it's all nonsense. You know, people look at INPS in Italy or the social security system in United States says, but the amount, the INPS is in a deficit, so the system is not sustainable. Or the social security system has a positive flow per year, so it's sustainable. Makes nothing, right? It's purely a political decision. You could easily be in a system in which there is a surplus, and nevertheless the pension system is a disaster because there is a surplus for the simple reason that it's extracting more and more resources from produced income and it's reducing the incentive to produce income. And vice versa, you could be in a system in which the social security system is running a big deficit, but on the other hand you pay small pension and you extract even less from current income, so they're actually not damaging production of income. So looking at the social security system from their perspective, that is from the accounting perspective, is silly. The question you have to ask is, what's the ratio if you want to do an efficiency issue, intergeneration, you want to look at basically marginal utility of consumption for the old, marginal utility of consumption for the young. Right? So when you have an index of poverty that increases among the young and decreases among the old, you may know that you might be paying pensions that are a bit bigger than what you're able to afford, right? Because you're extracting those pensions from incomes that are getting smaller. So that's one criteria you can use, comparing the marginal, the consumption utility or the consumption level of young and old, and ask, am I doing right with the redistribution? The second thing you can do is to say, all right, what's the tax burden that I'm imposing on labor income and capital income to sustain this transfer? And if that tax burden is particularly high, that reduces labor supply and pushes people from the Italian market to other markets and blah, 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 then I'm probably damaging the production of income with the transfer because I'm putting too much of a tax burden. That's what a good economist would do, right? Would ask at least those two questions. And the question of checking if the accounting budget of INPS or whatever is positive or negative is just idiocy. It's good for nothing. Okay? Bonds is the same thing. Public debt is the same thing. Right? You can rewrite that model and put in a public good. Right? And then again, I have the endowment when I'm young, and what do? I partly consume and partly invest in some public good that is carried over, for example, hospital and retirement houses for the old, okay? And so that public good provides me with income when I'm old. For example, I go to a retirement house with a garden and I play briscoe, okay? So that's one way. Then you can go in reverse, right? You can think of debt. If you think debt is the same thing, what is debt? It's the old people consuming by borrowing. So instead of consuming, because when I'm old, if I want to consume, I cannot come to you and say, lend me some money, right? Private debt. It doesn't work because I'm dead next period when you're waiting for my payment. But I can put a state in the middle that says, let me borrow from you. Okay? And here, the overlapping generation model makes you understand where the trick is. So, I'll do the bad guy. I do the bad guy, he does the state. You don't want to lend to me because they say, give me 10,000 euros. And you say, Michele, I'll give you 10,000 euros at 3%. Can you give me 10,300 next year? And I say, no, I'm dead. And he says, then I cannot give you the money, Michele. Okay? Then he comes in and says, oh, I have a solution. I'm the state. I'm around. Let's do this. I issue 10,000 of my debt to you. Give me 10,000. You give him 10,000. In fact, you give it at 2% because he's the state. He's safer. He says, Michele, vote for me. Here is 10,000. Spend. Go. Go to the casino. Go to Riccione. Buy yourself a new stick for the old guy. Whatever. Get a new nurse at home. And I say, very good. And then you say, hey, but Francesco, who's going to pay back the debt? Don't worry, taxes. Well, next week you come around, and it's your taxes. You're going to pay back your own debt. That's the part that people don't understand. Eventually, somebody, if you see what models are useful, make you understand all this blah, blah, blah about that. It's all nonsense. It also makes you understand that public debt will not be repaid. Because if it has to be repaid in the moment in which, think about public debt, right? Think about repaying public debt. Right? You can use two models. One of homogeneous agent within a generation, and one of heterogeneous agent. Either ways, you don't like it. Because one is the homogeneous agent we have now, right? So Francesco's been playing this game a number of times. He's given me the 10,000, he issued that. Then, she didn't want to pay, but she wanted to borrow too. So other 10,000, 20,000, issued that. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, right? Francesco is running out of generation. Now there is a public debt sitting out there for 100,000. There is some young guy that just bought that debt, which means he invested in the debt, he lent the money. And then the financial markets say, you gotta pay the debt, at least part of it. So there's not one guy, obviously, there is 20 million guys. Francesco was the state, sorry for giving you the nasty part today. Says, okay guys, I gotta do a little patrimoniale, a little tax, okay? If you don't mind, 20%, and we'll pay 20% of that. Guess what he's doing? He's taking your money with one pocket and putting it in the other.
Or is doing APE. APE, the new, like we can play also APE, the new law that they made for people going to pension that they miss 3 years. The state bargain.
The idea of Nannicini, completely insane. Yeah, so unfortunately that's Nannicini and my student Galasso. I have been hammering Vincenzo privately on that so much. I said, no, says Jesus, the economics. I told you, turn you and Renzi, cancel that. That's private. We'll have to take away the bill. Okay, but yes, but even in average, you understand what it means. So all the people that talk about repaying the debt, if they have in mind repaying the debt, this is for the so-called fiscal austere, don't understand. Repaying the debt, it's called Ricardian equivalence, by the way. All I'm doing is showing Ricardian equivalence alive, right? That's Ricardo got the point 200 years ago. If I repay the debt right now and the debt is held by Italians, I'm taking from one pocket and putting it to the other. You repay your own debt. Which is the argument of why, from a strict point of view, public debt is not net wealth. And only ignorant people like Tremonti or Fortes or Italian politicians can say, the Italians are so rich, they have all this wealth. Yeah, Bobo, 2,000 billions of that is actually debt. Yet their own debt. Okay, so that's one solution. The other is a heterogeneous agent. They own the debt, and you pay the taxes. Right? So, if, for example, as it is the case in Italy, most of the debt is held by old people. No, I'm still staying at home. By old people, or by wealthy people, typically old people, and the taxes are charged on the old, then you get a double dip. Then the old gets the debt paid, they already had the pensions, and then they have the debt, okay? Because with the money you pay them for pension, they bought the debt because they save a bit, and now you're repaying the debt with another tax, so they get the double dip. Okay, and you pay twice. That's another reason not to repay the debt. Then obviously there is the one to foreigners. If it is the foreigners subsidizing you, that's the situation that is most risky. One, because the foreigners, for them, it's net wealth. It's you with your taxes that said, I'm going to repay the debt, and they want the money. They gave you the money, they want their money back. And so they may be tempted to force you. If you're not trustable, that's why you don't want to play a risk when you're Argentina or Turkey, or that's why. Because you owe money for real to those people. And if they trust you, they keep lending. But if they don't trust you, they say, okay, you're not trustable, I run away, give me your money. Okay? That's something that, models teach you, and they're not there. Which is why, if you want to think of publicly held debt, a la Japanese, as long as you have trust, you just run over the debt. And as long as income grows and is able to sustain the debt, then you can pay interest. And as long as you're safe and behave properly and don't say crazy things and you don't do crazy things, people are willing to take 1% because you're nice and safe and you're like a console. You're like the British Empire. You're very reliable, and everybody likes to have some money stashed away that for sure pays 1%, 2%. Right? No, it's not true that everybody wants to make 15% with big risk. Some people want to make 1%, 2% forever. Very safe money. No? Worst come to worst, I got that. I can rely on that. So if you behave properly, you become one of those. And you become a good borrower. You pay little, borrow a lot, keep running over the debt, people trust you, pay the interest. But you got to do your homework. No? So all the daughters say, oh, Japan, yeah, look at the way Japan has a tax burden on the country that is 10 percentage point of GDP less than us. Nobody's particularly worried. In Japan, you can increase taxation substantially before you get to the Italian level, but really substantially. I think they're about 12 percentage point below us, 10. I don't want to say something wrong, but it's around 10%. Okay, so that's stuff you learn from the overlapping generation model. Okay, and it's very useful. Okay, very useful. So you can see that there is a way of rewriting, the strict Ricardian proposition that government debt is not net wealth, obviously holding the infinite horizon, infinite leverage, and with that specification, but in an OLG model with a certain amount of bequest and intergenerational share, they're not net wealth either. And it's in any case always true that if the debt is held inside, at the point you stop, at the stopping time, at the time you have to repay, there is no net wealth, there is no repayment, it's a write-off. Goes in on one side, off on the other. Right? And basically, one has to remember, debt is a piece of paper. When you go under debt, it's because somebody at time t is consuming real resources. If the real resources are consumed and not invested, they're gone forever. Right? Either you invest, then something stays. But if you consume, it doesn't stay. And it makes a big difference. Right? Okay. Let's take a break and then